Hi, welcome to another episode of Gruber's Grubs. Today we're going to be making a croquembouche. I'm filming this intro a little after the fact because when I made this recipe, I could not film the intro at the same time because I had a bit of a mental breakdown while making the recipe. So you're going to see that process in this video, and I must warn you, this is a very involved recipe, and I struggled greatly, and it was very interesting, but it was worth it in the end. I got this recipe from a cookbook. It's called Dessert Person, and I got it from a good friend of mine, so shout out to them.
These are the ingredients you'll need for the pastry cream. Now let's get started. Okay, so the first thing you should do is combine the milk, vanilla extract, and salt into a pot and put this on the stove at about medium heat and then wait for it to start to simmer. And occasionally whisk this. So while the milk is simmering, mix together the sugar, cornstarch, and egg yolks in a bowl, and then whisk this until a light and thick mixture starts to form. And this took a lot of whisking, but it might not seem like it's gonna come together at first, but eventually it'll start to look like this. So now you want to combine the two mixtures, and you want to do this by using a ladle to put half of the milk mixture into the eggs. And once you do this, and continue to whisk this while you're adding it so you don't ruin it. And after you do this, you're going to add the entire mixture back into the pot with the milk. Whenever you're combining the two mixtures, make sure that you're continuing to whisk them vigorously. So now you're going to want to take the pot and put it back on the stove and continue to whisk it. And then now the mixture should start to become quite thick, like this. And as it starts to thicken, you should incorporate the butter, and eventually, once the butter's melted, you can add in your chocolate and continue to mix all of it until it's smooth. And you can see I added a little bit of chocolate at a time so it melted evenly. So now once all the chocolate's mixed together like that, you want to take the pastry cream off the stove and move it into a bowl, and make sure to put plastic wrap right directly on top of the pastry cream, and this will preserve it while it sits in the refrigerator while you make the rest of everything. Now these are the ingredients for the pâte. Let's get started. So now in a pot, combine the milk, sugar, salt, and butter, and then you want to bring this to a simmer. And you're gonna stir it with a wooden spoon. Okay, so after everything's been combined and it's simmering, you want to add the flour into the mixture, and this is going to create the actual dough part of it. And you're going to continue to stir this so the flour totally disappears. And once this happens, it's going to create dough like this, and you're just going to continue to move it around in the pot, and eventually it'll come together, as you can see here. And then you're going to take it off the stove and put it into a stand mixer, and then you want to put it on the medium speed setting. And while you do this, make sure to add your eggs one at a time, and keep doing this until the mixture becomes very smooth. And the texture might not seem right at first, but eventually it's going to come together and it's going to be really silky. Okay, so here are the ingredients you'll need for the cracklin, and I want to warn you, this was the hardest part of the recipe for me. So in a bowl, you want to combine your butter and brown sugar and try to mix these together. And the recipe said with a spatula until it becomes smooth, and I wasn't really able to do this, so I put it in the microwave and it started to work after that, but it took a few goes in the microwave. Okay, so now you add the flour and the salt, and you're going to continue to stir this until like all the flour is kind of absorbed into this strange sort of mixture. It didn't really happen like how I thought it would, but I got these crumbles.
This is the point in the video where just everything starts to fall apart for me. You can tell when I roll out the Cracklin that things aren't going well, and you can tell by how I give up trying to cut the Cracklin into circles that it's not that I've given up, it was just that I was in so much pain, and this is the most difficult thing that I've literally ever done in my life, and I was having a breakdown.
So although it didn't turn out how I thought it would, I still like tried to roll it out and like persevere through making this, and I was able to roll it out and like cut out these very strange little circles to put on top of it, and here they are in the fridge. And then eventually you put the pâte in a pastry sleeve, and then you just pipe out little dots onto a pan, and then you put the little cracklins on top, and I made a lot of them, as you can see here. So now put them in the oven at 425 degrees. These are what they looked like while they were baking. They puffed up quite a bit, which I was very happy about. And you have to flip them around while they're in the oven, and make sure to do that quickly so they don't deflate. But I was really happy with how they turned out. So at first I was a little worried that I burnt them, but they actually weren't burnt and they still tasted really good. So after they're out of the oven, you just want to pipe in the pastry cream, and you cut a hole in the bottom of each individual cream puff, and then you pipe in the pastry cream, and be generous with that. And now for the actual assembly of the tower, the croquembouche, you have to make caramel, and I had never done this before, but I added just sugar and water into a bowl and then just started to mix it, and it took a really, really long time, but thankfully it turned out, and now here's me assembling the croquembouche. So to do this, I covered a plate in tin foil, and then I just started to scoop up the caramel with a spoon, and started to like create a circle of caramel on the bottom, which I set the individual cream puffs in. And the caramel, I must warn, it gets on everything. It is so sticky. It took forever to clean everything, and this is what it looked like halfway through while I was assembling the tower. I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I think, for my first time, I think I still did pretty well. So it took a little longer than I assumed it would take, and as it sat there for longer, the caramel started to dry up, and it was much harder to put the caramel on top of each of the individual cream puffs and assemble the tower. But this is what it looked like in the end, and I think it turned out really good.
I do want to warn you, if you do decide to make this, it's such a nightmare to clean up. Like the caramel got everywhere. The pot that I made it in, it wouldn't come out of the bottom of the pot, and I burnt myself like 4 times with the sugar burns. It took quite a toll on me mentally and physically, and the cooking material as well. I must warn you, although it was worth it, as it did taste very good and it looked very nice, but it was an exhausting process. Stay tuned for the next episode. I'm gonna be making lemon bars. Hopefully it goes better than this. It must. There's no way it couldn't, so see you then.